We're straight out the gate like the fart you just released from watching Infinity War. That is to say, the third Avengers movie, the conclusion to 10 years, a decade's worth of films building up to this one point. And we're going to give you our thoughts. We're going to discuss it a little bit. If you don't want it spoiled, then come back to this video because we will be discussing certain spoilers, I'm sure, somewhere along the way. Anyway, what is your initial takeaway, your first impression as you left the theater? Go.
I'm pretty satisfied, especially after how shitty Black Panther was. I was a little worried because the last 3 films, at least for me, have not been great in the MCU. But I think this one kind of rectified all my problems. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased. I have a few qualms, not too many, and they're not really they're not going to drag this thing into the negative zone. But this is a very apt conclusion, or at least part 1 of a conclusion to these 10 years. And yeah, very satisfying ending. I know some people that I've talked to have mentioned that there is no character buildup, and to them I say we've had 10 years of character buildup. It's time we have a fucking conclusion to something. But so that wasn't a qualm for me. But we'll talk about that. What are the standout pros for you? And I know there's a lot of them, but what are the standouts for you?
I think the biggest pro is that finally we don't have a villain that sucks donkey dicks. Thanos is actually pretty damn cool and actually does something. Which, despite the fact that we know everything's just going to be like reversed probably, feels pretty important right now. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest pro. That villain doesn't stink.
Yeah, that's definitely a pro for me too. And despite how much we get about him, I'm also going to put something in the con section because I felt we could have had more. However, the way the movie concludes, we know, one, that of course the storyline is going to continue and Thanos will be back. And it gives way to the thought that we will have more insight into him, which is what I want. I want much more impact to what he's doing for him. And we get plenty of good hints of that, of course, especially involving the kind of like terse family relationship between him and Gamora, which was excellent. So we do get hints of that, and I just wanted more of that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the best big screen Marvel villain we've because usually they're so damn
throwaway.
Yeah, they're usually wastes of time, and or they're great, but there's not enough of them, i.e. Hela or Killmonger. Anyway, any cons that stand out for you?
Not really right now for me.
Yeah, there's a few for me. I wouldn't call them deal breakers at all, so they'll come naturally as we speak about this. But yeah, there's a few moments here and there that didn't quite hit the mark for me. But again, it took nothing away from the experience, so it's just nitpicky garbage, really, in the long run. Anyway, the plot is pretty straightforward. You know, whatever we've seen set up with Thanos, little as it was, we've gotten the idea of him, and whatever we didn't understand, we kind of get the whole picture here, and it's pretty simple. He's collecting the Infinity Stones, and once he does, his goal is to bring balance to the universe by destroying half of everything. I mean, that's high stakes right there out the gate, you know? So my big thing was, is Marvel going to have the balls to pull the trigger? And they do. A lot. So what's your thoughts on the death toll here?
I didn't think they would do it to the extent they did. But they did. Here's a problem that I have. It's not a problem with the movie. It's a problem with the universe as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I think they robbed some of the impact of the ending of this movie. Even though we know it's going to be reversed or something's going to happen in the second movie, I think it would have been a lot more impactful if they hadn't already announced that there's going to be another Spider-Man or another freaking Black Panther. It's kind of like, okay, we know this shit's going to be reversed. Even though we know it, it does kind of rob that ending of a little bit of the impact, because you're like, oh, okay, all these people are dying, but we know they're going to be back. So it kind of takes you out a little bit. But, I mean, we know something's gonna happen anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I do kind of wish they hadn't have done that.
Yeah, it didn't bother me that much, that specific angle, because, yeah, like you said, we know instinctually that, and even if I was like uninformed as I wasn't a comic reader or something, I'd still I mean, come on, they're not gonna shut down this fucking money making magnet. But yeah, I could see somebody definitely being affected by that. At least being so specific, I guess, would be a better way. Specifically,
Like,
we're gonna get this.
As of now, a lot of people died. A lot of people died. But even as fans who know something's gonna happen, we don't exactly know how many people are gonna come back in the second movie.
I think the excitement for me anyway is in seeing how they're gonna do it, because they have altered the storyline enough so that there's still potentially this surprise or that. That being said, there was a lot of points that I hoped that they would hit. Some I felt kind of robbed of, like Drax. I think should have gotten a spectacular send away rather than just being part of the.
Oh, he's definitely gonna come back.
I know that, but he needed a face off with Thanos, and he kind of didn't get that. I mean, he sort of did when they teamed up against him, but he needed something more to satisfy the comic fan in me. But that's a nitpick again. It's not like it was horrible send off. I just thought he shouldn't have been part of the casualties at the end. He should have been a casualty before, in my opinion. But that, again, nitpicking. Another nitpick for me was, man, I really hated Captain America's costume in this. I don't know if I'm alone, but fuck. I thought it was shitty looking. And his armor was ass to me. But whatever, he's fine. Again,
I survived through the first Avengers costume. I can't complain.
There is that. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
I completely lost my train of thought where I was going with it. Anyway, the fact that all these people die and they have already announced that there's going to be under Guardians and the Spider-Man, you're kind of like, well, they're just going to come back. Even though we haven't seen the conclusion, it's kind of like, it robs it a little bit. Like, we know these people are going to come back. Kind of licks. To me.
Yeah. I think another thing that bothered me was that neither Captain America or Iron Man died, when one of them definitely should have. At least one of them should have. So hopefully one of them croaks in the second one.
They're saving that for the next one, because
even then I felt one of them should have died in this one. Because I even thought it was going to happen with Iron Man. When he gets stabbed, I was like, that's it, good. Again, I love Iron Man, but it's time. And I was like, damn it, he's fucking.
We also got to remember that these two movies are filmed back to back and are meant to be part 1 and 2. So clearly that's going to happen in the second movie. Right now they have the original Avengers lineup still alive, which I think was very purposeful. So that didn't bother me. I do want Iron Man to. If Iron Man doesn't die in the second one, then I'll be pissed.
Yeah, he needs to croak and fast, or Cap. One of the two needs to croak. Anyway, a standout pro for me was, again, this is more of a fanboy thing, was that they actually got to use Wanda the way she should be used, which is pretty awesome. I really liked the role she had to play in this, and really it was something I think they should have played up a lot more. They did enough, and even in this movie, of course, but it was kind of like, again, it was kind of like the Thanos thing. There's hints of it, and then here they just kind of stuff it all into one movie, but I'm glad it got in there so that you see the more, I guess, the love she shares with Vision and vice versa. That's established well enough so that there's an impact when, what happens between her, Vision, and Thanos happens. It has enough of an emotional heft, which I was glad to see. But just in terms of her power set, it was really neat to see her do her thing. So that was pretty fucking badass for me. Just a geek out moment for me. Any geek out moment for you that stood out?
I just liked everybody dying. That was my biggest thing. I was like, oh, they actually did it. Because I wasn't expecting them to kill that many people. So I was glad they did.
Yeah, it was
because it really raises the stakes for the next movie.
Yeah.
Well, the next movie's Ant-Man, but that's, you know what I mean. The next
Avengers movie. So anyway, let's talk about the characters. Actors portraying them. If you're familiar with the characters up to this point, then you're just going to get a lot more of that. And, in keeping with the MCU and the way they've been doing things, they're pretty good about keeping the majority of their timeline intact and letting you know exactly, through exposition or otherwise, where these characters are at this specific moment. So that was actually pretty impressive that they did that, considering how much was going on and how many characters were stuffed into the movie. I was pretty impressed with how well they brought everybody up to date all around. So yeah, kudos to that, man. Really good. I didn't feel lost on any of the characters. I didn't feel like I'd missed anything huge with them, which was another concern. Still a little bit iffy on the Hulk because
he was a lot better in this.
A virtual nobody in the universe, and now they've added this whole, the Hulk doesn't want to come out angle, and refuse to explain an iota of it, which is fine. But again, yeah, it's just kind of become like a thing. Like he's like a tertiary.
I think they did
thing in all of the fucking movies now.
I would actually disagree with that because I think they actually did a good job of giving him something to do in this one. In that he's the one that's like, yo, y'all gotta get ready, mofos. And I think the Hulk thing made perfect sense because he fought Thanos and lost horribly. So he was a little like, a little scared now. The little Hulk side of him. So I actually kind of enjoyed his kind of less shitty role in this because of how bad he was in Ragnarok. I thought at least they give him something to do. That being said, as the movie goes along, he does have a lot less to do, and he just kind of, is in the background as the movie goes along.
Yeah, and there are some characters who suffer from this fate as well. Just off the top of my head, Black Widow. But you'd expect that out of a person that's basically just a human being.
Yeah.
But yeah, here and there, some characters just take a back seat. Generally, you're around certain ones the majority of the time, and others are just kind of lingering. They're there. They have a contribution, but it's nothing too big. Good example, Falcon, which I'm glad because, man, just his costume design is fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying for me to see him on screen, to be honest.
Yeah, you really hate Falcon.
Man. And granted, his comic book costume is terrible too. But I was like, man, he could have come up with something better than this look. It's I'm just annoyed by the way he looks. But anyway, yeah, so the right people take the front seat. I felt that Spider-Man didn't need this big a fucking role in the movie.
Yeah.
That's just me. He did prove very useful in the long term. So that's good. It didn't feel like he was just there to satisfy the Spider fans.
I will say
that's good. I just felt, come on.
I'm a major Spider hater. Not really, but I definitely didn't love Homecoming. And thought his role in Civil War was pretty forced. So I gotta say that I didn't feel that much in this movie because he is kind of useful in the movie, and it ultimately leads to a kind of sad moment at the end with him and Tony Stark. So I was kind of like, all right, that's cool, and it didn't feel too forced. But yes, he does have a spot that is a little too big.
I do think they missed a massive opportunity. I'm not opposed to Spider-Man being in it in a big way. I just think they missed the biggest opportunity with him. Again, I felt he was in the wrong place in this movie. The power, or the strength, I should say, of Spider-Man Homecoming was that it gave you the man on the street point of view of the Marvel Universe. And I thought that's what we were going to get based on the trailer, when his spider sense tells him that something's off and, he's on the bus. And I thought he was going to literally be the audience point of view for the events that were going on, which are colossal. And that would have been fantastic. And it would have given room for the Netflix MCU to come into play. But we didn't get that. And that's one thing I do strike against the movie is that it's big, it's epic, it's awesome. But it still feels like people, just regular people, don't even exist in this universe. And that's always been a problem with me with the entire MCU. It continues to be an issue with this one. They do touch on it with the post-credit sequence. But, it's a post-credit sequence, so you're kind of like, well, we got to see somebody affected, I guess. And that's always bothered me about the Marvel Universe movies. Maybe it's nitpick, I know, but... I felt that they had a missed opportunity because they had a character that they built entirely on that in Spider-Man Homecoming, and then they don't do that. They just send him off to space. So, I would have preferred this over that, but, he was cool.
I think they actually did a lot better job in this than usual because usually people just don't exist at all in the world. We saw this in Civil War where, suddenly there's nobody around for some damn reason. In this one, at least they do show more of the people, but it's with different people that they show it.
Yeah, but it's still very bare bones. It's still very minimal. It almost feels like bookends. You know what I'm saying? We see them at the beginning running around New York. They're not involved. They're not, there's nobody being saved that you see. Instinctually, that's the case, obviously. But anyway, that's just that's just a thing that's bugged me about it. And I just felt that was a missed opportunity with Spider-Man. But I'm fine with the way they used them. Surprisingly, it came out pretty effective, so that's pretty cool. The Red Skull's back. What's your thought on that? Which we know we both hated that he was wasted, basically.
Yeah,
the first Avenger.
That was the thing that I kind of ruined. I knew he was going to be in it. I didn't know how he was going to be in it. I liked it. It was cool.
Yeah, it was all right. That's my takeaway on that. It makes sense, with what happened. It's just, I'll put it this way. I'll put it in this context. There was nothing in this movie that surprised me. And that, I guess, was supposed to be a moment where you're like, cool. I'm pleasantly surprised. But I was kind of like, all right. That's cool. That's cool. I know it sounds like I'm ragging on the movie.
Big time.
But I'm not. I'm just saying there's nothing at all in the movie that surprised me. Which I'm surprised that there was nothing that surprised me, considering how many people fucking croaked. But yeah, there was that. Yeah. And then that, I think, is the epitome of the perfect example of how I felt about just about everything. This is cool.
All right.
Anyway.
Woo! Glowing review over here.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I feel. But anyway, any other characters you feel deserve some mentioning here, or you want to talk about specifically?
Not really.
Okay.
Everyone does their thing.
Yeah. I think
Thanos is the big one, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna get to here. Let me just mention this real quick. I think the best. I think, by the way, the comedy in this worked wonderfully throughout.
Yeah.
There was, unlike Black Panther, nothing felt super corny and lame and forced and in the wrong movie. And even though the stakes were super high in this, the humor came as a relief at times, which is good, which is what you want. And it was still funny. And Drax still killing it. It's still the funniest thing in the fucking movie.
Yeah, I was actually kind of impressed with how they pulled off the comedy really well. Even the Russos themselves sometimes failed, like with in Civil War, some of the stuff was a little weird. And Spider-Man just felt off. I thought in this one it was all handled pretty damn well. And yeah, everything was funny, so I was like, all right. Nothing felt too like shady or anything, so that was good.
The only thing that I, if I had to pick something that didn't quite hit, it was some of the first few gags around Iron Man, and it felt a little whatever, but they were still funny, so I was glad that the humor worked throughout. We even had a cape joke in there that worked good. Because after that cape caressing Doctor Strange thing,
I kind of like the cape, weird. And this is the weird part.
Yeah. Everything with the humor worked pretty good. But the big question was, would Thanos work? And the quick answer is, I think we'll both agree on this. Yes. As an effect, he looks wonderful.
I gotta say the effect on him was really good.
Yeah, man, I agree. He looked fantastic. He looked damn near realistic. That's not the case with all the effects, but we'll talk about it when we get to that. But he looked fantastic. He looked like he was in those environments. He was interacting with people. So thumbs up on the effects there. And as a character, and the actor portraying him being Josh Brolin comes across, and that's a damn good thing. He's fantastic. He's absolutely what you'd want Thanos to be. Even though some important aspects of him are not there if you're familiar with the comics, it doesn't rob anything of his portrayal of Thanos. He did an excellent job. I thought it worked fantastically. Any cons to his performance? No. Or the character in general?
I don't think so. I'm actually kind of okay with the fact that they excluded the death thing, at least for now. Because it would have been a little weird to explain that. And I think what they have hinted to his tale is a little more interesting for me.
Yeah, it definitely does give him a conscious of morality. He's not the Thanos that's full blown on death worship.
Insane,
yet. Yeah. And there is pathos to him. There is an emotional
Side,
foundation
yeah,
to
yeah.
him, and it was actually very, very powerful scene between him and Gamora that really changes how you're looking at this guy. It even kind of makes him sympathetic for a millisecond, because ultimately he's basically Space Hitler. And the way the movie concludes suggests, yeah, that there is something deeper there.
Yeah,
That,
which is why I kind of was okay with the fact that they didn't delve too much into his background or into, his reasoning,
yeah,
because it gave us enough to be like, I wonder.
yeah. What exactly is he balancing? What is he
Yeah.
restoring by taking something away? And of course we can make our conclusions quite easily. But it was excellent to endow the character with that particular foundation. Thumbs up through and through. A great villain. I was kind of afraid because they were excluding flashbacks to his past, but this suggested a lot more, and there's ample room to do it in the second one. So yeah, that was a winner for me. Absolutely love that. Who was your favorite Avenger in this? Or I shouldn't even say Avenger. Who was your favorite character in this movie? Take it away.
My favorite character has got to be Thanos.
Besides Thanos.
All right. I kind of like Doctor Strange in this quite a bit. I know he's not in it a lot, but when he is in there, it really works. And an interesting turn at the end was also worked really well for him. I thought. I was surprised. I actually liked Iron Man in this. I'm kind of burned out on him, but I think they did a good job of kind of giving him a little freaking plug of life for now,
Mm-hmm.
And a little drive that was interesting. I was a little disappointed with Cap's role.
Yeah, so was I.
I'm assuming there's going to be more in the sequel, but for
He
now,
felt wedged in and kind of unnecessary.
yeah,
to be
for
honest
now
with
he's kind of just there.
you. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, I gotta say that those are my favorites.
Yeah. Man. I too was disappointed in the Cap thing. He did feel kind of like a loose end that just kind of had to tack on. I think maybe they should have saved him to the second one, to be honest with you. Kind of prolong the reluctant hero thing a bit. But that was not the case, so he just kind of did. Yeah, he kind of did feel tacked on a little.
Yeah, him.
It was nice to see Black Panther actually be cool again, because I
Yeah.
did not enjoy him in the movie.
Yeah, that's interesting that they didn't really go with the extreme ludicrous Wakanda that we saw in Black Panther.
Yeah.
It was actually a kind of scaled back and more realistic, surprisingly, which I was glad with. Even his little sister didn't suck weenus, so that was good.
My favorite character in the movie was, the fanboy side of me is Scarlet Witch. I've always liked Scarlet Witch. It was just nice to see her get a bigger role, actually see her use her power set, and to have the integral part that she needed to have, ditto on Vision. So I can't wait for his return, because that's inevitable, and I'm glad they set it up. Awesome. Very cool. I love that. If I'm to take a little bit of the fanboy out of me, then, actually, let me add another one to the fanboy, and that's Nebula. I'm glad she's still part of it. And the whole time I'm wondering what the fuck happened to Valkyrie, by the way. Is she
Hopefully
dead?
she's dead. It seemed like she was, because
Why
she was
hopefully?
in the. She was. I didn't like her. She was in that ship, so you assume that she's dead.
I hope not.
Hopefully,
Anyway,
Korg is freaking rotting in hell too.
you need to rewatch that movie because it's awesome. But anyway, yeah.
Definitely not.
I'm wondering what the fuck happened with them. But anyway, whatever the fuck. The character didn't quite hit with me. It was again Bruce Banner / the Hulk. It's kind of like the Cap thing, only more so in the sense that they kind of feel. It kind of feels like they don't know what the fuck to do with him at this point. But he was fine in the respects that he was used in. But yeah, man. Overall, everybody was pretty much a success in the film. It was cool. Could have done without Falcon, because who cares? But whatever.
He's barely in it.
Which is a good thing. But anyway, let's talk about the effects in this movie, which, we go from Earth to space, to the nether regions of space, to the halls of dwarves and so forth. Overall, what'd you think?
I think it was all pretty damn good. Some stuff more than others. Thanos specifically, we already talked about how good his effect is. I mean, there was some green screen shit in there, but it wasn't too bad. Everything kind of fit. Peter Dinklage, massive dwarf, was kind of weird. Kind of looked crappy, I thought. But, I don't really have that many complaints.
I have two complaints. Oh yeah, I'll add Peter Dinklage's mega dwarf in the sense that just let him
Just
be
give him
a small man.
Yeah,
we know he's a small man. Just let him be that.
Looks weird.
But whatever. It didn't look proportionally right, and I realized he's a dwarf, but it just looked weird to see it that big. But anyway, that's me being an idiot, nitpicky moron.
Also, his wig kind of sucked.
But if I had to pick an effect that I didn't like, it's the nanotech Iron Man suit.
I agree.
Fucking horrible effect.
I thought it was, sometimes it was okay, but especially when he first starts using it, and he's doing like all these little booster shits, like the little booster foot, that just looked shitty. It works occasionally, like I said, but yeah, I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it didn't work for me at all, except for when he was fully suited. Then it's fine. But yeah, and even then, yeah, the little weird
Booster
unifoot booster thing.
Yeah, I didn't like
kinda
that.
Looked awful. I just didn't like how the suit came on and off. It looked horrible. And same with Spider-Man's Iron Spider suit. It was like they were just their heads tacked onto CGI bodies. It stood out, in what is otherwise a generally damn good effects laden movie. But I was more than that. I was glad to see that we were taken away from the usually bland looking Earth.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that I do give props to Black Panther for. They took us away from the generally bland looking surroundings that most of these movies have to something that looked different at the very least, even though it looked fake as fuck. But here we're actually taken to much more, at least visually interesting and realistic in the sense that they're fantastical locations and colorful, and so yeah, the whole space element added to that, of course. But yeah, it was just good to see that. It was good to see different terrain. It was good to see a whole lot of that action going on. But yeah, overall the effects were pretty much on point. Not too much to whine about, and even the stuff we didn't like, I don't think it deters anything from the movie, or takes away anything from the movie. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the action in this. There is a lot of action. It's stuffed to the gills, some might say, with action. Some would say maybe it's too much. Some would say there's a big lull in the middle. But what do you say?
I kind of like the lull, so I don't have to complain about the lull. I don't think it was too much action. I thought they balanced everything pretty well. I think maybe the battle at the end with the aliens wasn't as cool as it should have been, but it wasn't shitty. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought the overall balance of the action was excellent. Again, it's kind of bookended in the sense that it starts off with a punch.
Yeah.
And then you get more into the story aspects as the width and length of the whole fucking story starts to set in, because there's a lot of space they have to cover, literally. And
yeah, that's another thing. Like they span like a lot of the galaxy. Like the different things are happening in different places, and different action scenes are happening in different places.
Yeah,
and the way they handle that, I thought was really good.
Yeah, so once everything is set up, and not to say that it's bereft of action during that particular portion, but once everything's set up, we get back to how it began, which is a lot more straightforward action. So, yeah, man, there is a lot. This is in essence, this is the Return of the King. I'm sorry. In essence, this is what Return of the King was to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's the big action payoff.
Yeah,
it's a big effects payoff. It's the big conclusion. It's the big war. It's all that stuff. So, if you're seeing this movie without any context whatsoever, or half-ass context of the MCU, then yeah, it's probably gonna fucking
make no sense.
Yeah, it's gonna shoot you down with numb you even with the amount of stuff going on, action or otherwise. However, if you've seen these movies, then you've gotten the story, and this is the payoff. So, in that sense, it worked. I know a friend of mine saw it and was numbed, so to speak, by irresponsive to the action, basically. And then I come to find out he's watched none of the other ones basically.
Yeah, it's foolish.
So it's like, okay, well then you're just getting a bunch of stuff that makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, that would be the case.
And that's the biggest thing is that this movie does assume you've seen all the other movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 100%.
So but the action is pretty bombastic. Nothing stood out as particularly amazing, but it is fucking cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. I usually with these flicks, I make a note of the spine tingly moments. I had none, which was interesting.
I had one, and again that was the scene with Wanda defending Vision against Thanos. That's it. That was, but again, that probably is because of my fanboy side. But yeah, like you, I was.
Yeah,
like,
I had none, but I was still like, this is badass.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Usually it's like I don't get any because the movie kind of stinks. Which I'm a little worried if maybe I'm just numb to action now. But I don't think so because I got some in Justice League. I got several. But that's because the action was really well shot in that. And this, it's badass, but there's no action moments to make you go, oh shit, little spine tingles.
Yeah, and there's definitely been those in the Marvel Universe before. So maybe it's, I wouldn't say fatigue. Maybe it's Marvel style fatigue. I don't know what it is. Maybe we're just so used to.
Maybe I was a little too worried.
Colossal moments of awesomeness that we're just kind of like, we just take them in as everyday things.
And
now.
yeah, because there's a lot of moments where I was like, damn, that's badass. But I didn't get that tingly.
Yeah, the tingly came for me with the Wanda scene, but there were super cool moments, on top of the cool that there already was. And for me, those would include Thor coming with Stormbringer.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was awesome. Leveling a fucking field, basically.
I thought Thor's costume looked kind of cheap.
I loved it. It looks far better than previous ones.
Several moments where like he's moving and his little chest just kind of like Thor, the metal singer, just kind of moves. But whatever.
I thought those were good. Anything with Thanos looked pretty great and stood out in that respect. The comedic action with the Guardians worked awesome. So yeah, man, there's of course plenty to chew on here. But again, yeah, it was kind of weird that I never got a chill up the old spine. Yeah. Really,
I'm a little curious if this might just be one of those that when you see it again, you can appreciate it a little more. Because there was a level of worrying for me. I was like, man, this is gonna not pay off. So maybe it was just me or maybe it was the fact that I was sitting to the loudest kid on earth. But yeah, there was no spine tingling moments for me, despite the fact that there was plenty of badassness.
Was there an action sequence that's... Oh, you know what? I'm gonna. This wasn't a spine tingling moment, but I'm gonna add it to the super badass moments, and that's the children of Thanos. Whenever they did stuff, that was fucking cool. Especially the one guy, the old ass looking dude that looked frail as fuck.
Oh, the little...
Yeah, that was... I really loved cool. That, and it made me hope that one day we'll get to see the Heralds of Galactus do something. Finally, so that was kind of like a little teaser for that, for me anyway, what could potentially be. So I did like that a lot. So that's another standout moment. Chills? No, but standout for sure. Now let's talk about the score in this thing. I still found it relatively unimpressive. Again, that's not to say the score is bad. It's just it's a generic Marvel score. It is a lot more bombastic and rousing in the right moments.
Yeah.
So that's good, but it still doesn't stand out. There's no theme in it for me that I, locked in the old memory banks and humming on the way home or some shit like that. It's fair. It works. But it is virtually, forgettable.
Yeah. I think this one did it a little better than we're used to. Because not necessarily because of the quality of the music, but because where it was used or not used. You know what I'm talking about, I hope. But it was used more wisely. And so when it hit, you're like, all right, that's kind of cool use. Not necessarily the themes are cool. You still get the kind of forgettable ass Avengers theme, except they, like I said, they use it at several times where you're like, oh, that's almost kind of cool. But it's mostly just the moment that's cool, not the music that's cool. But it did make me notice the theme, which is kind of impressive because that theme is freaking forgettable shit. So I'll give it kudos for the movie, not necessarily the score, in its use of the score. You do get a little bit of that harpsichord which I kind of like this time around because I was like, oh, all right, at least it sounds different. And apparently, Black Panther theme they thought was so good that they give it its own credit at the end, and I was like, woo, it's not good.
Yeah, man. This is just like the standard now for Marvel. I don't think, with the exception of Black Panther, there's not really a score that stood out.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange will be a close second because of the harpsichord excess. But, yeah, maybe one day we'll get a badass score from Marvel. But again, serviceable. It does its job. It accompanies, basically. The final thing is the visuals and aesthetics. We've kind of touched on that already in the terms that what you expect of a Marvel movie, how it looks visually, that's what you're going to get here. But we have the added universal aspect to it that adds a different flavor to it. So
yeah, the different areas have kind of their own little tinges.
If this whole thing had taken place on Earth, it would have been kind of fucked up to see 3 hours of that.
Yeah,
because it's there's just something about the way they shoot these movies that just feels so bland visually. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I love the movies. Just
people give shit.
There's something about it.
I don't want to get on this bus, but people give shit to Snyder, everything looking the same. But we've had 10 years of the same looking movie.
Yeah, and it's very, very mundane. There's nothing spectacular looking about it, you know. Everything else is spectacular except the way it looks, which is odd. But anyway, here we get a little bit more variety thanks to the more universal aspect, and that's good. Because, again, had this thing been on Earth the whole time, whew, I don't think I could do 3 hours of that visual blandness. But anyway, another thing to touch upon, the Stan Lee cameo. Loved it.
It was actually pretty good, this one, yeah.
Yeah. His line was actually funny. It was cool. It was just nice to see Stan not fucking croaking while he's signing stuff. So that's cool. Love that. Anything you want to add?
I'll give you my standout moment in the movie overall. I think it was that ending with everybody freaking croaking and shit. It was actually kind of a little... I'm not going to say it got to me, but it was on the verge of getting to me. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh man, it's pretty well done. And having that little end with Thanos looking at the little thing worked pretty good. I thought that entire moment and the fact that they let it play without music, so you're just kind of like, woo, this is happening, isn't it? Made it even more impactful despite the fact that we're like, oh man, everything's just going to be reversed.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely visually the way I would have preferred myself. I would have preferred once he does snap the old fingaroos, I would have preferred something more immediate because that would have been like a kick to the nuts. Like fuck, everybody's fucking no, not everybody, you know, a lot of people are fucking dead. But yeah, stringing it out to kind of pluck a few little heartstrings works just as well. Maybe I would have just preferred the kick to the nuts, is what I'm saying here.
I actually felt this was a little bit bigger kick to the nuts because everything goes freaking dead silent and then you just kind of start seeing shit happen and you're kind of eventually the characters start getting the whole breadth of it. Yes, for as like a viewer it would have been more impactful, like oh shit, everybody's just freaking gone. But I thought this worked a little bit better.
This is again, this goes back to where I think they misuse Spider-Man in the sense that, and again, and it works very well with that post-credit sequence, you know, kind of like that rapture feeling, like fuck, people are just gone now. They're just gone, you know. So you get to see that, and you feel that as a viewer, because there's a kind of detachment between we, the peons that walk the streets, and these fucking basically mythological fucking heroes on screen, you know. There's a detachment. And so, yeah, for me, it would have been much more impactful to show that aspect, that point of view, to really get the hit along with the characters on screen. Because we know that they care about each other, obviously. But to really lock in that feeling and emotion to show us the man on the street view, which they did, again, post-credits, but, you know, it would have been really neat to see it in the movie. But as it is, yeah, it works, don't get me wrong. But I think the more emotional moments in the movie fall in the hands of Thanos with his exchange with Gamora. That was, I still say, probably the best scene in the movie. Awesome. It worked. And like you said, it gave much more substance to Thanos than I expected he would have.
And that does eventually tie into the end scene with him getting that little exchange and then having his moment of just kind of like, I did it.
Yeah.
Which I thought rounded off that storyline pretty damn well and was made very satisfying because of the setup that was that you're talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the other one was the interchange between Wanda and Vision, which kind of drove the last portion of the movie. At least the motivations of the heroes, on top of the fact that they're
because they're all
fending
just
off
trying
Thanos.
to keep.
So there was these two big anchor moments in the movie that really did it for me emotionally, which is why I feel personally, again, I feel that the sudden impact of loss would have been much more a visceral blow to the viewer. But that's not to say that it's not visceral to see
people literally disappearing.
Yeah, people that you've come to care about over the last decade or more, if you're a comic fan, just vanish.
Yeah,
again,
I think that was definitely just a choice they made to have them reacting in real time to people disappearing.
Yeah.
It would have been neat to see them do it that other way, but I think the way they did it, along with the choice not to have a score or any sound effects, was pretty damn impactful.
Not that we would have noticed the score. This should have been the score. But anyway, despite how I might have sounded throughout some of the review, I'm trying to be as fair and as unbiased as I possibly can be about the picture. That's kind of the goal. And yeah, I absolutely love the movie. Final thoughts and final rating. Hit it.
Final thoughts. I was surprised that it was good. After Black Panther, I was worried. I kind of hope that the second one doesn't fail, because unfortunately this does kind of depend on that finale. So I hope it's not a Pirates of the Caribbean situation where the third one sucks and makes the second one kind of stink. But as of now, I'm pretty damn happy with it. I am a little worried about Captain Marvel's involvement, but we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that same fucking boat. We know she's going to be a part of it. By the way that fucking post-credit sequence made it seem, she's going to be a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Like a reversal of everything part of it, which kind of fucking scares me because...
A little, yeah.
We're entering agenda territory at this point, and that might sound a little fucked up, but... We're already seen it there's a scene in this movie that bordered on like cringe agenda stuff, you know, and that's when the girls come to defend the girls to fight the girl. And I was like, this should just be a cool moment. You don't need to state the obvious fact. We get it. You can be subtle about it. It's cool. It's good.
And I don't think it was that obvious in this.
To me, it was like the equivalent of the Wonder Woman No Man's Land scene, where it was like, okay, you almost just said it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it was walking that line.
It's on the edge.
Yeah.
That being said,
what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
What I'm afraid of is they'll go over that line and we're just getting preachy shit. And what makes me more afraid is that one of the head honchos at Marvel has said, from now on, my goal is for 50% of these movies to be directed by women. No problem with that. But there needs to be merit and there needs to be a reason other than
they're women.
I want women to be in directors. Absolutely fine with that.
Yeah.
There needs to be merit, and there needs to be no agenda. There just needs to be good movies, and that's it. I'm afraid that they'll walk over that line.
I will say this. When I saw the movie, I was super satisfied. I saw that post-credit scene, and my instant reaction was, ooh, a woman hero comes to save the universe, huh? Woo! Because we know what Marvel's been doing for the last... the
comic book... Yeah, the Marvel Comics.
So right now it's a little worrying. We'll see where it goes.
And if you know what the fuck we're talking about, for the last 6 years, Marvel's printed comics have been agenda driven. Keep in mind, I'm a guy that loves female heroes in stories. I absolutely love it. You've only to look around my collection to see the majority of the shit is female oriented. I am not a fan of people shoving shit in my face and telling me this is what you should like. Do it right, do it right, and I'll be very happy. And I think here they did it right.
Yeah.
And just please don't walk over that fucking line and make this about something else. This is supposed to be just cool stuff that we enjoy, characters that we love, male or female. So that's what I'm afraid of. But anyway, what was your final rating?
I really liked it. I'm gonna give it a solid freaking 9 right now.
Again, these ratings are in the context of films of their type,
Yeah.
and
Specifically, this one in the Marvel
yeah.
scale.
So I'm gonna give it a solid. I'll give it a 9 too. And I have a feeling you'll appreciate on the second watch.
Yeah, I think so.
In some aspects, and some other aspects might not. But I'm okay with that. It's definitely deserving of a second watch, and I'll definitely be happy to see it again.
This is almost a 3-hour movie, and at no point I felt bored or like this is taking too long, like we did with Black Panther, and that's kind of a big thing for the movie. So I thought it worked.
So anyway, if you haven't seen this movie yet, go check it out. It's definitely a recommend. If you have, do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? I'm sure you'll disagree with a lot of things I've said. That's fine. That's what we're all about. Anyway, this has been Ahab. That's the Goon Tick. Hit like, share, subscribe to those notification buttons because we're out.